Thank you, everyone, for your patience. Welcome to Mesa City Council meeting, September 22nd. All of our council members are present. This is the last call for blue cards to be turned in for this meeting. If you have a blue card that has not been turned in, please turn it in to the clerk. Thank you. We'll begin this meeting with an invocation by Pastor Jared Moore with the One Life Church, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Pastor, if you come forward, and everyone please stand. Looks like Pastor Moore is not here. We'll have a moment of silence. Thank you. Thank you. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you, everyone. Before we begin tonight's agenda, I want to share some updates with everyone that's here, and it's great that we have a great crowd tonight. From now on, when cards are submitted in support or in opposition of an item, our city clerk will tally the totals from each side and read those numbers into the record. This will allow us to acknowledge community input without reading every individual name aloud. The list of the names will still be made available online the following day. In cases where we receive many cards on the same topic, which is like tonight, city clerk staff should have spoken with you and when you've completed your card about selecting a spokesperson. To avoid repetition, we'll ask that one spokesperson speak on behalf of those who share the same position. If you submitted a request to speak but do not have the opportunity tonight, I would encourage you to share your comments online, and the council reviews those published the following day. Finally, I want to remind everyone that this is a business meeting, and to maintain proper decorum, please refrain from clapping, cheering, or other disruptions. These interruptions make it harder for us to move through the agenda and hear each speaker. But let's keep this meeting respectful and orderly, and so every voice has a fair opportunity to be considered. The mayor or anyone conducting this meeting has the authority to adjust as they deem necessary. So with that, I think it's deemed necessary. I'm going to hear first from citizens present. So that would be the last agenda item. However, I'm going to move that to the front to give those who wish to speak the opportunity to do so tonight. That way, if you choose to leave the meeting and go about your business instead of continuing all our zoning things, you're welcome to leave. So with that, our first three speakers, I would invite Betsy Soderquist. She's opposed to item 12. Betsy, would you come forward? Thank you. Following her, I always put somebody on deck. That's Elisa Owens. Elisa, you're on deck. You're opposed to 287G. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Betsy Soderquist. I've lived in Mesa just a bit over 50 years. I believe in democracy, so that's why I'm here to share my beliefs with you. I want to clarify the four aspects of the 287G program for the community and express my concerns about potential government overreach within it. We know that 287G is an agreement between federal immigration authorities, DHS and ICE, and law enforcement departments. There are four ways to implement the agreements. Number one is the jail enforcement model. This is what Mesa Police Department has used since 2009. It allows local enforcement to identify non-citizens who have been booked for criminal offenses. This model operates from our local detention center, and it isn't invasive in our law enforcement infrastructure, so we haven't raised concerns for the past 16 years. The warrant service officer model, this is also confined to local detention facilities, but on ours. Number three is the task force model. This was reinstated this year after being halted for a while. It allows deputized officers to enforce immigration laws during routine policing. Officers using this model can make arrests for civil immigration violations without requiring a separate criminal charge. This endangers our due process of law, our constitutional right. Number 4 is the hybrid model. This is the task force model on steroids because it includes the jail enforcement model with it. An ominous storm is brewing if Mesa Police should expand to the task force or hybrid models. According to the Brennan Center for Justice, the recent congressional budget allocates $170.7 billion over 4 years for border and interior enforcement. That is more money than the yearly budget for all local and state enforcement agencies combined throughout the country. Austin Coker of Syracuse University warns, the staggering expansion of 287G, and specifically the revival of the aggressive task force model, means that this administration is building an army of deportation officers out of state and local law enforcement agencies at a scale we have never seen before, full stop. All citizens of Mesa need your protection from this potential yet unprecedented government overreach. Thank you.
Thank you, Betsy. Elisa? After Elisa, we have Dr. Erica. I'm sorry, but Dr. Erica, you're next. Thank you. Elisa.
Hi, my name is Alyssa Lamontang Owens. I am a United States citizen. I have been a resident for Mesa for the last 8 years. I live in Dobson Ranch. I am also here in opposition to the 287G. For clarification, we don't actually oppose putting people who have been charged with violent crimes into removal proceedings. And we do understand that that is, ostensibly the scope of the jail model. However, we do know that these agreements and cooperation and collaboration with ICE have shown policing to become less effective as communities refuse to reach out to police because they are unsure whether their constitutional rights under the US Constitution or the Constitution of Arizona will be respected. We have seen time and time again this last year reports from community members directly, both in our city and outside of our city, about racial profiling, about ICE being brought along with PD to intervene if someone should, happen to have an accent or otherwise appear like they could potentially be an immigrant. And I think if I had not naturalized last year as an American citizen, and I, say, lost my wallet or I lost my purse, I don't know that I would call Mesa PD. And some of you might be looking at me and saying, really, her? And if you are, then you understand what the problem is. Thank you. I ask you to oppose 287G and also oppose any policy of collaboration or cooperation with ICE. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Okay, Dr. Erica Lynn Handel. Doctor, are you here? I don't see her moving forward. All right. Is there another blue card I could read?
What? Are you the doctor?
No, but can I speak in behalf of her?
That's.
Are you the family?
No.
You're not her?
No, I'm a citizen.
Are you her family
No.
that we're seeing?
No.
Okay, so I need to have a blue card from you. I don't have one.
I turned in a blue card.
Are you speaking in behalf of her?
Yeah. Yeah.
You are?
Yeah.
Okay, you have 3 minutes.
Okay. My name's Adela. Today I come as a concerned resident of the city of Mesa. I am here to express my deep concern about the agreement 287G that exists between the Mesa Police and the ICE Department. In my community, this agreement has shown enormous fear. My neighbors, my friends, my parents, and people I don't even know are afraid to have any contact with the police because they think that they could take them to ICE.
Young lady, I need to cut you off. You're not speaking on behalf of the Bilber Singh family. They had a memorial service for their father who was killed this
I'm a
last
student.
week.
Can I
understand
continue?
that, but please sit down.
Can I continue?
Please sit down.
Can I continue?
Please sit down. I have another card here.
My
Everybody
mother's
be
there.
quiet. I have a blue card. Sit down. I'll ask you to leave.
Families no longer feel safe to report a crime when they witness something for fear of being arrested.
Okay, would
Talk about respect and then you're shutting voices down.
would Adela Teresa Vargas, would you like to come forward and speak? Adela? Are you Adela? All right. I pulled your card. Well, you should join the lottery.
I should.
I think everything's worked out. Everybody, relax. All right, Adela, we'll hear from you. You have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name's Adela. Today I come as a concerned resident of the city of Mesa. I am here to express my deep concern about the Agreement 287G that exists between the Mesa Police and the ICE Department. In my community, this agreement has shown enormous fear. My parents, my friends, my neighbors, people I don't even know are afraid to have any contact with the police because they think that they could take them to ICE. Families no longer feel safe to report a crime or testify when they witness something for fear of being arrested. That puts the whole city at risk because if people don't feel free to talk to police, the real criminals remain on the streets. The most painful thing to see is the fear in children and youth who go to school. They should feel protected, but instead they are afraid that the police could separate their families at any time. Even I, a 13-year-old, have witnessed the presence of ICE in my community, and now we believe that the police could do the same things to our loved ones and family. No child should live in fear like this. I recognize that the police have responsibilities to reinforce the law, but they must also have a relationship of trust with the community. And as long as this agreement with ICE exists, that trust can never be built, especially if they're racially profiling us, taking everything from us like our liberty, our justice, our dignity, our family, our loved ones, and our peace, just for looking a little different. Immigrants are not illegal aliens. We are not criminals. We are humans just like you guys. You guys were just lucky enough to be born in the US. Therefore, I ask you with all due respect to consider canceling the Agreement 287G in our community. Our community deserves to be safer, have confidence in our authorities, and not live in fear. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, Adela. Okay, thank you. That's all the blue cards we have tonight. If anyone wishes to leave, you're welcome to do so. We'll go ahead with our city business. So with that, if Ms. King, you want to come forward and read the agenda. What I have currently is 5D, off consent. I have 8B and C, 8C, and 10A, 10A and B, 10B. You have all those correct?
Correct.
And
Before you-
11A and B.
Hold on, everyone. Before you leave, I'm going to ask the city clerk to read. There's some blue cards here. If you could read some of the numbers, I think you have,
Yes,
Holly.
Mayor, I have 113 blue cards received in opposition of the 287G agreement.
All right, thank you.
Okay, Mayor and council
then I have
members?
11A, 11B, and again, 11B. Is that what you have as well?
Yes.
Okay,
Okay. Mayor and council members, these are the items on the consent agenda. All items listed with an asterisk will be considered as a group by the city council and will be enacted on with one motion. There will be no separate discussion unless a council member or citizen requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered on as a separate item. Item 2, approval of minutes of previous meetings as written. Item 3A, act on liquor license application for Gin Smoke Shop, 1927 North Gilbert Road. Item 3B, act on liquor license application for Elisa's Ristorante Italiano, 5251 East Brown Road. Item 3C has been withdrawn by the applicant. Item 3D, act on liquor license application for 7-Eleven, 7226 South Ellsworth Road. Item 4A, approve 3-year term contract with 2-year renewal options for fabrication and installation of parks and facilities signs for Park, Recreation, and Community Facilities Department. Item 4B, approving 11-month use of corporate term contract with renewal options for a new distributed antenna system for the Mesa Gateway Airport as requested by the Department of Innovation and Technology. Item 4C, approving 5-year term contract for industrial plumbing supplies for the Water Resources and Park and Recreation and Community Facilities Departments. Item 5A, approving resolution to enter into contracts for the purchase of firm natural gas supplies for the City of Mesa natural gas distribution system for a period of up to 5 years. Item 5B, approving resolution to accept Proposition 202 funds from the Gila River Indian Community and administer awarded funds. Item 5C, approving resolution to enter into a 4th amendment of intergovernmental agreement between the City of Mesa and the Arizona Board of Regents on behalf of the Arizona State University for Crime Analysis Assistance. Item 5D has been removed from consent. Item 6A, introduction of ordinance for zoning case 22-890 for property located at the northwest and southwest corners of Ray Road and Hawes Roads, rezone with a planned area development overlay and site plan review for an industrial development and future commercial development. Item 6B, introduction of ordinance amending sections 10-4-4 and 10-4-5 of the Mesa City Code to reduce the speed limit from 40 miles per hour to 55 miles per hour on Extension Road between Baseline and Southern Avenue, as recommended by the Transportation Advisory Board. Items 7A and 7B are a resolution and ordinance pertaining to the development of 4062 East Main for property located west of the northwest corner of Main Street and North Greenfield Road. Item 7A is a resolution for zoning case 25-366 for approval of minor general plan amendment to change the place type from urban center with an involved growth strategy to urban residential with an involved growth strategy. 7B is an ordinance for zoning case 25-25 for approval of a rezone with new planned area development overlay and site plan review for a 137-unit attached single resident development. Item 8A, approving ordinance for proposed amendments to chapters 14 and 86 of Title 11 of the Mesa City Code. The amendments including repealing and replacing Chapter 14, Employment Opportunity District, and modifying Section 11-86-1, Purpose and Accountability.
Lily, can I ask you to read 6B again, please?
6B, yes.
6B.
Oh, 6D?
Yeah.
I do not have 6D in here. 6B, as in boy? Oh, okay. Yes, 6B.
Did I?
Item 6B, introduction of ordinance amending sections 10-4-4 and 10-4-5 of the Mesa City Code to reduce the speed limit from 40 miles per hour to 35 miles per hour on Extension Road between Baseline Road and Southern Avenue, as recommended by the Transportation Advisory Board.
Very good, thanks.
Okay. Apologies if I said that incorrectly. Mayor and council members, these are, item 8B and 8C have been removed from the consent agenda, and these are the items on the consent agenda. Thank you.
Council, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as read. Thank you, Ms. Spilsbury. Thank you, Vice Mayor. Please cast your vote. Passes unanimously. Thank you. We'll move over to 5D. 5D is provide recommendation to the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors on a neighborhood request for the City of Mesa consent for the formation of a Mesa Vista Estates Irrigation Water Delivery District, also known as an IWDD, generally bounded by Jensen Street, East Mesa Vista Lane on the south, North Mesa Drive on the west, and North Dresden on the east. With that, we have one person who'd like to speak. Robert Blinko. Robert, if you're here, You're in support of this. Thank you, sir.
I'm Robert Blinko, a citizen, District 1. Our whole neighborhood has appreciated the irrigation system that SRP put in several decades ago, but now it's aging, and we are going to have to find a way to pay for the repairs that are larger and larger every year. And so we have submitted to you a proposal here that we might organize ourselves into an irrigation district. And in this way, begin to pool our money, be ready for what seems to be a larger and larger expense in keeping up this wonderful system of irrigation that we enjoy.
Thank you, sir. I'm a firm believer in IWDDs, and we'll send your request on to the Maricopa County Supervisors, which finalizes it. So
thank you very much.
So with that, Council, I'll entertain a motion to approve item 5D. Thank you, Mr. Heredia. Thank you, Mr. Adams. Please cast your vote. Passes unanimously. Thank you. Next, we'll move over to item 8B. And we have 8B and C. Right now, 8B, we'll talk about 8B, which is proposed amendments to Chapter 36 of Title 11 of the Mesa City Code pertaining to legal, non-conforming uses, lots, parcels, and structures, and sites, and legal, procedural, conforming uses and structures. These amendments repeal in its entirety Chapter 36 on non-conforming uses, structures, and lots, adopt a new Chapter 36, non-conforming and procedural conforming, citywide ordinance 5963. It's off consent. Council, what's your discussion? Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. We've had considerable discussion about the issues downstairs, but the long and the short of it is, let's just stick to the short of it, is that we don't have enough information about this, whether this is specific to a BESS or battery energy storage system, or is this going to be something that applies to the entire city? We've heard two different answers downstairs, and I would like to get some more information about if it is going to affect the entire city, what the consequences might be. I don't want to pass something unless I am fully aware of what's in it. I want to prevent any more unintended consequences. So what I've asked for, and I would like to make a motion, is to continue this to the October 6th council meeting for approval.
Okay. Council, any discussion? Well, hearing none, then I'll entertain a motion to have a continuance. Thank you, Mr. Adams. Thank you, Mr. Summers. Please cast your vote. Thank you. Passes 6-1. Next, we'll hear on item 8C, which is zoning case 25-00304, called Price Manor II, a 6.5 acre development located northeast corner of East McKellips Road and North Center Street, rezoned from single residence 9 with a planned area development overlay to RS 9 pad, small lot single resident with a pad overlay. With that, we have some speakers on this. First, I'll hear from Mario Diaz. Mario, you're in support and you wish to speak. Mario, would you come forward? After Mario, we'll hear from Tim Brown.
Mayor, council members, I'm here in support of Brighton Homes and Jared. So I'm at 219 East Cleveland Street. I am 2 houses in from the property that is going to be developed. And so what I want to state to you guys is that we are wanting that property to be developed. Most of you, if not all of you, received an email from me that has photos of this property becoming a dumping ground. We were in support of the Manor I. We were in support of Manor II. Now, we understand that nobody wants extra traffic in their neighborhood. Nobody does. We don't want extra traffic coming down Leland Street. However, we understand that that property is going to be developed. It may be now, it may be in the future. You guys have an individual who was born and raised here in Mesa. He has a business, he develops. You've already given him the opportunity to build the Manor I. Mayor, Councilmember Adams, I understand you're opposing this. I understand you gave your word. I appreciate the email and the responses. However, I don't agree with that. I think that you guys should vote to allow this property to be developed because it's just going to continue to be a dumping ground. Mayor, you said it in the downstairs. This is like a checkerboard of all types of different zonings, right? And so to have the property of Manor I adjacent to Manor II and all of it be one, I think that's a good thing. The gate that's there is going to be an emergency gate. We hope it stays that way. We understand that we're going to get some traffic. I don't disagree with the people in Lehigh proper, but I'm sure that when Lehigh Shadows was established, there was probably a lot of opposition. And Lehigh Shadows is a great neighborhood. All of us in that neighborhood know each other for the most part. We treat each other well. We're good neighbors. We keep our property up. And I do believe that if the opportunity is given for this to pass, you may have another good property there for people to build on. There's a park across the street. I remember that the city council put out many years ago a survey, and I believe that everybody in Lehigh Shadows and everybody in Lehigh didn't want to park there, but we did one in a question center. That didn't happen, okay? However, allow this to be built. We're in favor of it. My neighbors who are closest to this property couldn't be here today, but they did speak at the planning and zoning, and they also agree that this should be developed because of the things that are going on there. So Pasadena, Leland Street, in that corner, we live right there. So we ask that you please vote yes on this, and we ask that you allow Brighton Homes to move forward with that development. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Diaz. Mr. Brown?
Good evening. My name is Tim Brown. I live 243 East Leland Street, five houses in from the proposed development. We've been there for 25 years. We've been looking at that property. You know, it's supposed to change hands multiple times. Nobody could ever come up with a plan to make it work. Currently, it's planned to have rental units on it, 18 rental units, and if this development does get approved, I'm concerned about that. I'm concerned about the future of the property because I'm worried about higher density than the 41 lots that are currently on or proposed. We've had good communication with Brighton Homes, and you know, we approved the Price Manor, or you approved the Price Manor, and we all agree with it. He reduced density on that one to accommodate. He went from townhomes to single-family residences to accommodate the neighborhood, and we think that the transition onto the proposed Price Manor II will be a good transition for the neighborhood. In that area, it backs up to a street called Pasadena. We're to the east of that. That street is a very remote street. No street lights, and it backs up to a very low-income trailer park, a couple of them. And there's been crimes that have been back there. One of the neighbors had a cattle was shot back there. I've chased off gangsters. I've seen MS-13 back there. We've had a number of different problems back there, drug deals. There's been cars that have been wrecked in the back, abandoned cars in the back. I feel like if the development gets approved, it's going to improve that situation. It's going to put some oversight on what's happening back there, and I think it would be a good progression for the neighborhood, and it'll take care of some of that problem. And that's all I got.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Thanks for wearing a cowboy hat. With that, we'll hear from Marilyn Crosby, followed by Michelle McCroskey. Marilyn, are you here?
Good evening, and I'd just like to take a minute to
Tell the men and women in blue that we're proud of them and we're grateful for them, because I feel like sometimes they don't get the just deserves that they have. I believe that it should matter with regard to this development that's proposed, that the residents of Lehigh are not opposing it being developed. They're opposing broken commitments, broken promises, and lies. That's what they're opposing. That's very different. I also think it should matter that if a property is unsightly, that is the responsibility of the owner of the property to maintain it. The owner of this property is attempting to sell it for between $3 and $4 million. They didn't buy it for that many digits, okay? This is a huge money-making venture. It should also matter that we have been willing to talk to people and discuss. I still, to this day, have not received a phone call. We spoke briefly after the last council meeting out in the hall. Still haven't heard anything. I think it should also matter that they are very aware before they even pursued this project that they knew that Lehigh was opposed to it. Yet we were not included, as it is required, in any of the public comments. So we were never reached out to. It is required that we are. So those things should matter. Due process and process within the city should matter. We submitted a rebuttal to the report that each of you have received, and all of those things are substantiated that are in there. You can have the audio report if you would like it. You can transcribe it if you want. It's available to anybody who wishes to have it. It should matter that if we're hearing reports of gang activity, that's a police and law enforcement issue. And I'm sure they would like to know that if that is the truth. It should also matter that we were committed to R9. We haven't opposed R9 on that property. We would like to see someone actually try that. But there has been no discussion. It should also matter that they are claiming that it's a step down in density. Well, if 500 square feet in a lot means that it's a step down, then I suppose you can say that's true. But when you're coming from R43 and you're going to R4.5, then to R4, that doesn't seem like much of a step down. So I believe that it would also be rational to assume that if the project were to go forward, that the traffic flow should be shared. Because you'll notice that Lehigh Shadows is okay with the project, but just don't send any of the cars through our neighborhood. That doesn't seem very right. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Marilyn. Michelle?
My name is Michelle McCroskey, and I live at 3021 North Chestnut Circle. Was I give my address? Okay. To be very clear to everyone, it's not that we don't want the lot developed. This is an issue of density and traffic. I serve two roles in the Lehigh community. I'm on the Lehigh Community Board, and in that role, it's my job to help protect Lehigh, to protect our lifestyle. It's our job to watch out for any development that might come next to our neighborhood or worse yet within that would impact our lifestyle negatively. So in this particular case, it's traffic, and that's why we've asked for a left turn only exit on Center Street. And then we also feel like, hey, we should share the load of traffic. There are still going to be people that are going to try to buzz through Lehigh Road, and we feel like we should share that with the other neighborhood, Lehigh Shadows. The other concern is you're inviting new residents that don't value our love of agriculture, livestock, which, by the way, brings flies, it brings dust, and it brings mosquitoes sometimes with irrigation. And so we're going to have people right next to us that don't value that at all. And for that reason, we've asked for some type of disclosure that they would sign when they purchase property, acknowledging that they're next to an agricultural community and that they're waiving their rights to suddenly come up and oppose the lifestyle that we have in Lehigh. But the second thing is I'm a Lehigh 4-H leader. We have about 60 kids, and what you may not know, but I'm hoping we have an opportunity to show you soon, We have our kids not only ride their horses back and forth, they have two riding meetings on Lehigh Road. And our kids ride over to the meeting and they ride home, hopefully very safely. But we also have kids that walk their pigs, their goat, their sheep, because in 4-H, that's part of what they're doing. They're exercising their animals and they're learning to show them. So I have a responsibility in that role to protect our kids. And that's why this probably won't be the first time we talk about it. We'll continue to talk about traffic. We will continue to ask you to protect Lehigh Road because that's where all the kids go up and down. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. I'm going to read into the record. I have some other blue cards, but they wish not to speak. Sean Brown is in favor, wishes not to speak. Tom Warren is in support, wishes not to speak. Bonetta Warren is in favor, wishes not to speak. Spencer Price, also in favor, wishes not to speak. And Mike Kotoski, did I mess it up real bad, Mike? Nod of the head is good enough for me. Okay, is in favor and supports this. So, and all of these look like they live in Lehigh Shadows or right next to the development itself. With that, I would like to invite the applicant to come up, and you've listened to some of the concerns, and then I know council has some as well. Mr. Lake?
Yes, sir.
Were you part of the rezone back in the day in the R9 or no? Back in?
I was in 2005.
In 2005. So you were the zoning attorney in 2005
Yes,
for
sir.
R9.
Let me, what's the button I push to get it to go? Right there. There we go. Thank you for your patience. Mayor, Sean Lake, 1744 Southville Vista Drive, Mesa, Arizona, here on behalf of Jaron Sweeney. Mr. Sweeney is Brighton Homes. He and his family have been developing homes in Mesa and in the East Valley for decades. Mr. Sweeney's family, they're Mesa people. Jaron went to Mountain View High School. The Sweeneys live in Mesa, and so they are local people looking to do high quality projects in Mesa. They're looking to build projects that we need in Mesa. The recent housing study talks about this. So let me just kind of walk through the project, and then I can answer specific questions if that's okay. As staff has pointed out in previous presentations, this area is just outside of the Lehigh sub area. And I don't want to get into an argument of what's in Lehigh and what's not Lehigh, but the Lehigh sub area, this is just outside. So you can see on the screen, it's on the lower left-hand corner. Between Lehigh to the north, between this site and to the north is the ADOT retention basin. So if you've driven down Center Street on your way to get rid of your paint or wherever you're going to the sand and gravel up, all the way up Center Street, that ADOT retention basin is right there. That will never be developed on the north side. This council recently adopted the Lehigh Historic Neighborhood designation, which expanded the Lehigh area, the Lehigh sub-area a little bit and included the ADOT retention basin. But again, this property sits outside of that mapped area. So as staff pointed out, this project is directly north of Price Manor, which was approved by this council unanimously January 22nd of last year. On that project directly to the south, it was approved for an RSL 3.0 single-family detached for-sale homes. We are proposing on this site RSL 4.5 for single-family detached homes. So larger lots, the same or slightly larger homes, and then we are proposing, because Brighton's doing both of them, to combine them into an HOA so that we can have more units or more people that make up the HOA to make it more sustainable over a long term. We all know that having 100 people part of your HOA is better than having 50 because you have more people paying into the pot and more people participating. To the right, as you can see, is the Lehigh Shadow subdivision, or to the east. That's a lot of the neighbors that you've seen speak here this evening. Mr. Sweeney's gone door to door, and we've really focused our efforts to try to outreach to the neighbors directly to the east. That's the Lehigh Shadows, and then there's a mobile home subdivision directly to the east, and then to the south of Price Manor 1 and Price Manor 2 is a RV park that's been there for some time that's zoned R4 or RM4. So here's how this would look as you look at the surrounding community, and does it really fit into the neighborhood? And we think this is a great use for this property. As you transition from a mobile home park, R4, RM4 zoning, to Price Manor 1, Price Manor 2, to ADOT retention basin to the north, you look to the east, you've got 10,000 square foot lots, 7,000 square foot lots, and then a manufactured home subdivision to our east. Lehigh would be up along Lehigh Road. So is it near? Yes, it's near Lehigh. People coming and going from this property, I'm not going to speak for people's traffic patterns. We all know if you live in this area, you're going to shop at Fry's, or you're going to shop at the neighborhood market on Horn, and you're going to get on the freeway to go to the airport, or you're going to get on the freeway to go to work. And the closest freeway on-ramp is at McKillop's and Country Club. Both have freeway on-ramps. It's just a hop, skip, and a jump from here. If you're going to go to Fry's, Shawn Lake, I'm not going to speak for other people, Shawn Lake would go out to Center Street, straight to McKillop's, and shoot down McKillop's to go to the Walmart neighborhood market or Fry's. That's just what I would do. There is concerns that were expressed by several of the individuals who spoke here this evening at the neighborhood meeting in May that people would go through the Lehigh neighborhood and go up Center Street to Lehigh Road and then wind through Lehigh Road over to either Mesa Drive or other streets to get back to McKillop's to get to the commercial shopping center. I'm not going to say that they're not, but that's not what Shawn would do. Shawn would go out to the easiest path, which would be to McKillop's. Let's look at the general plan for this area. Again, traditionally the Lehigh sub-area is low-density residential. This area is not low-density. This is traditional residential. It's yellow, as most of the property in the city of Mesa is yellow. So this is consistent with the general plan density. The zoning, as you see, we've got R3 and R4, R16 and RS9. We think it fits well within the immediate development around the area as far as density and transition to the ADOT retention basin on the north. I think you've seen some of these pictures. The problem is this property was zoned in RS9 in 2005. It's gone through 3 different property owners. They've tried to make it work at RS9. They haven't been able to make it work. They went so far as to put in a road and do some improvements, and they still couldn't make it work. That's why we're here, because they couldn't make it work at RS9. We're here to change the zoning to RSL 4.5, which Mr. Sweeney can make it work. He can make this happen and provide for sale homes for this community, not only benefit this area, but benefit a lot of us who live in Mesa, who have children who want to buy homes, but can't afford an $850,000 or a $1 million home. But they can't afford something like this, and they want to live in Mesa. And so we think this is a good use for this property. The layout goes east-west, and a point of clarification at the neighborhood meeting, this does have an exit only to the east, to Lehigh Shadows. So you had different groups at that neighborhood meeting. Some wanted no traffic going east to Lehigh Shadows, and then the other people were like, no, that will force traffic through our neighborhood. And then they said, we'll allow all traffic to go east. And then the neighbors in Lehigh Shadows, so you couldn't make both of them happy. So as a compromise, we have an exit only, but not an entrance to the east. So there's full access off of Center and an exit only off to the east, which was an attempt to compromise, to have some of the traffic that might go to the east to the Lehigh Shadows, but not all of it go to Center Street. I guess when you try to compromise, nobody's happy. But we still think it's a good plan. As far as development standards, you typically see a lot of development standards with smaller lot development for sale housing. We don't have any other than we want to put an 8-foot wall around the SRP water facility there on our property, and we want to have a private street for a gated community. Here's some elevations of the home. They are beautiful homes. These are front yard, backyard, homes where you can drive in your driveway and raise a family. We think this is a great addition of something that the city of Mesa needs. We need more inventory of this type of product, and we think this will benefit the city of Mesa overall. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. But let me just point out a couple of things that were raised by the neighbors. Sorry, Mayor, I apologize. I should have gone over this. Disclosure. In the neighborhood meeting, there was concerns about animals and flies and disclosure. We've agreed to provide in our CC&Rs and disclosure to anybody that purchases the property that they're within the proximity of agriculture and horse, and there could be flies. We've already agreed to do that. We've put that in our CC&Rs and our public report. We agreed that there not be rentals. There was a concern about people not having rentals for Airbnbs or VRBOs, those type of things. So we've agreed to have limitations in our CC&Rs for rentals. We agreed to put a DG trail, horse trail, along the frontage of our property so that there'll be one along Price Manor 1 and one along Price Manor 2. We agreed to work with the city of Mesa on speed tables. They wanted the speed humps on Lehigh Road. That's not my call. That's your call. But we'll write a letter of support. We'd be okay with that, but we can't make that decision. That's up to this council. Restricting traffic, we're willing to work with the transportation department on restricting access out of this project to go to Center Street, but that's something we can work with during the final plating process. We're even open to installing white fencing along Lehigh Road. I mean, we're willing to work with the community, but we want to do a project that we think is going to meet a need that we need in this community for sale homes. And so with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions and request your support.
Council, any questions? Ms. Pillsbury.
So to clarify that retention lot to the north cannot be developed. Is that what you said?
Correct. That is an ADOT retention basin.
So there will always be that buffer.
As long as there's a freeway draining water, that will be there.
Okay, and then on Price Manor 1, is there, what are the exit entrances on Price Manor 1?
So the exit, sorry.
Going east.
There is an entrance off of Center, and there's an exit off to the east.
So
it's a crash gate only. Oh, it's a crash gate only on the east.
Because it circles, people can drive around the circle and get back out on Center.
So for those that aren't at the microphone and for the record, Price Manor 1 has a crash gate to the east, and so all traffic goes out to Center. For this project, you have an ingress and egress, an entrance and exit off of Center, but an exit only to the east, so that some traffic can go east. And the concern was by Lehigh residents is that they would all go to Center, they'd take a right on Center, go to Lehigh Road, and then drive through Lehigh Road to go wherever they're going.
okay,
So we kind of split the difference.
okay.
You got that. You're good. Okay. Any others? I'm sure Mr. Adams.
Well, thank you, Mayor. I have a question or two for Mr. Lake, but I also have some additional remarks. I imagine we'll make those after the question period.
Sure.
You're a hard act to follow, Mr. Lake.
Thank you, sir.
Let me ask you a question. So I'm looking at your site plan, and I've made this larger, and I'm looking at this gate that exits to the east. And what I'm reading here is it says emergency and trash access, paren, emergency egress only, close paren. To me, that means the only way you go east is if you have an emergency. Am I looking at an old site plan?
I think you're looking at old site plan. I will affirm at this meeting today, avow, if you will, that will allow an exit only.
Well, I guess my question is, I think there's a difference between an exit only and an emergency exit only.
I apologize. Thank you for bringing that up. This east side will allow emergency vehicles to come and go, regardless of whether, just like Price Manor 1. And then we're going to have solid city vehicles like solid waste can come and go. But residents only can exit only. They can't, residents or visitors or people driving in the area can't enter from the east. They can only exit to the east.
Well, I still am, I'm a little confused there still, because if I buy a home there at lot 21
Yes, sir.
and I decide I'd like to go east.
Yes. You
It
drive up.
says emergency egress going out only. To me, that means it's a crash gate or I have to have, you see what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. So if you live in lot 21 and you want to leave and go east, you would drive up to the gate, it would sense your car is there, and the gate would open.
So is that, Mary, is that what we consider an emergency gate?
Mayor, Councilmember Adams, I think that the label on this map may be misleading because the intent is that residents would be able to leave that way. So that's something that council could clarify as they move forward on how that exit would work.
Thank you.
Jared,
So it's an automatic
Jared,
gate.
you're welcome to come up and help Mr. Sean.
For the record, I had the same question actually, and I reached out to Peter Vargas, who's the head of transportation, or one of the heads of transportation, because that seemed confusing to me as well. And he was under the understanding that what Sean is explaining is what that says, but I read it the same way you did. So it can be changed or worded slightly differently, however the city wants it, but it is meant to be emergency access like Price Manor 1,
Yes.
as well as allow people to exit if needed.
So I guess what I'm trying to put into the record is if I live there or someone else lives there, I have a choice as to whether I can exit to the west or to the east.
Yes.
Without any emergency.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay, all right, thank you for that. That's my only question, but I have comments later before we vote, if I may.
If there's no other questions for the applicant, Ms. Goforth.
I guess, Mr. Lake, what I can't sort of reconcile, I don't understand. My issue is with the process, because the citizen participation process is very important. If our residents can't count on that, they can't trust our decisions up here. So to me, even if ultimately they got to voice their concerns, that process is really, really important, that it's carried out thoroughly and transparently. How is it that you can tell me you sent it to the required people and neighborhoods, registered neighborhoods, and people within the radius, and yet they are up here saying, I didn't receive anything? And we have an email from a handful that says, I didn't get it. I don't know, I don't know how to reconcile that.
Mayor, Councilmember Goforth, I wish I could stand here and say, I watched as Marilyn or Kim's letter went into the mailbox. I can't. I have staff that we get labels or a list of people to send notice to, and my staff, those get put on mailing labels, and then they sit in our conference room and they peel mailing labels and they put them on envelopes, and then those envelopes get stuffed, and then those get rubber banded up and they get taken to the post office. That's all I know. I
guess I could see one or two getting lost, but the whole group, and that seems to me, you signed an affidavit that said that you did it, so you should be able to verify that it got done. I mean, I don't know. Go ahead.
I'm curious because, Mary, maybe you can answer my question. This has happened to at least 2 properties in my district, the same exact thing. And I thought that we changed it, that our staff was going to send out neighborhood participation letters because of this.
So Mayor, Councilmember Spilsbury, what the staff does is we generate a list of labels. And it is common practice that the applicants in other jurisdictions around us, best practices is that the applicants are the ones who are sending out the letters. There was a time when we as staff would have the applicant bring the letters to us, but I will say we never went through and did a check of the letters that were in the box against the labels that were provided to us, and then we would walk them over to the post office. So what we've done now is we've changed that process so that the applicant, we provide the list, again, because we generate it through our GIS system, through the tax assessor's office. We generate those mailing addresses, we provide them to the applicant. They're required then to do what Sean had talked about, putting the labels on the envelopes, getting them to the post office, and then they have to sign an affidavit with a list that we've provided to them saying, we have sent letters to these people.
Okay, the only other comment I would add is that I have sent 4 different children's wedding announcements out, and every single time, all 4 times, like 40 or 50 of them don't make it there or get returned for no reason. So only to say that I think there are sometimes, like you said, how did it happen to that many? My daughter just got back 40 of her wedding announcements for no reason. I can't explain it. This has happened, so I don't want to accuse anyone of lying. I'm just saying this is kind of crazy.
And Mayor, Councilmember Spilsbury, if I can, it's one of the reasons there are different ways to notice the public. So it's the letters, it's the newspaper, it's the posting on the site, so that there are those different opportunities in case something does get lost in the mail. I hate to use that pun.
Can I say one more thing, Mayor, if that's okay? I've been doing this 30 years, and the point of the notification, it's expanded a lot over 30 years. But the point is so that people can participate in the process. And so really, I think Marilyn, who was up here and spoke, said we didn't get anything, but Jaron emailed Marilyn to let her know about this project on November 22nd at 1:46 p.m. That's even before we had anything. A lot of the people who sent that letter this weekend were in attendance at the neighborhood meeting. A lot of those people who sent that letter were in attendance and participated not only in the neighborhood meeting, but the Planning and Zoning Board. They're also here tonight. And so if the point is to provide notice through letters, through signs, through word of mouth, through posting in the newspaper, is so that people can participate. And so we should focus on, they have participated. Now, we may not have agreed on everything that they would have liked to see, but the point is, I think they have participated, both in the neighborhood meeting and in the Planning and Zoning Board, so people are aware. And so I would hope you would take some solace. It may not solve the problem, but take some solace that the people did have an opportunity to participate in the process, which I think is really the goal of what we're trying to do.
Any more questions for?
Yeah, well, I would just push back a little bit to say that you can't really, I don't think, justify and shore up the process by saying, well, a few participated. I mean, I think those are two separate things. We don't know who didn't get it, right? We know who did, and those people know you. You know, I mean, they have access. That doesn't include other people that maybe should have gotten it and didn't. Again. That's a very important piece. We have to get that process right because people won't trust the decisions we make. That to me, that's what I'm focused on in this case. So.
Thank you, Ms. Goforth. There's nothing else do you have something for?
Real quick, Mary, what's the distance that you have to send a mailing towards to? Because sometimes you have people that are farther away that are not within the distance that we require a developer to send a mailing to. So, you Ryan?
Sure. Mayor, Councilmember Heredia, the state statute is 500 feet is the distance, but in some cases, and I believe in this case, we will ask an applicant to extend that to 1,000 feet or in some cases 1,500 feet. And I believe in this case, we did 1,000 feet.
Thank you, Mr. Lake. Council, I know there's going to be some further comments. So, Mr. Adams, you want to kick it off, or?
Sure. There it goes. Sure. Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I would just like to comment that I think it's refreshing that the discussion on this particular item has been respectful and reasonable and in a conversational tone. So I very much appreciate that and thank everyone involved here for that. I'm not supportive of the project, and I'm going to provide my reasons because I think that's very important. I don't like to vote one way or another without explaining my reasons for it. First up is when I ran for this seat a year or so ago, I made a commitment to the residents of Lehigh who reached out to me, who contacted me, invited me to meetings, other gatherings. And the constant thread through those meetings was, we want to know if you will protect the rural lifestyle of Lehigh and will you oppose higher density? Constant, same thing, all the time. And I said, yes, I will. No one up until this point contacted me and say, we want higher density in Lehigh. Never happened. So that's point number one. This is a commitment made and a commitment I will stand by. There are arguments made, and Mr. Lake was kind enough to show pictures of trash and tires and various other junk on the property. I'm not going to accept that as a reason, a sole reason to pass on this property, because we hold people who own property responsible for junk on their property all over this town, and we cite them and we fine them and we demand that they remove it. This property is no different. That is the responsibility of the owner. And to use that as a reason, I don't accept that. I understand that once it's developed, it won't happen anymore, but it's not a reason. There's an owner there, they need to take care of that. Put up a good fence, whatever. As far as various other nefarious activities that are happening there, yeah, I hear that, not good. But I wonder if in every one of those cases we've contacted Mesa PD and allowed them to respond. They can put that helicopter over an area pretty fast. So I don't know, but I would offer that as a counterpoint. If that's a problem, are we calling PD every time we see something going on there? So I'm not really, that doesn't really weigh a lot with me there. The citizen participation outreach issue is of concern to me. I said earlier today downstairs that I think we have two different factions here. All are honorable and honest people who feel that they either did what the law asks them to do or that what the law asks them to do was not done. And how do we know? Maybe it was the post office. We don't know. And I'm certainly not going to point fingers, but I will point out I think the process is broken. If it wasn't broken, we wouldn't be having this. So that's a matter for another day. What I do know is that we can't pick and choose. Sometimes we want to hold to the letter of the law. Other times we want to say, well, that's not so important, but they found out anyway. Well, it either matters or it doesn't. So that's another issue for me. I have heard from numerous Lehigh residents who feel that over the course of time, and I'm not going to delve into the history of this, I have lots of paper about it, that going back to the 2005 rezone, there were certain assurances given about step-down zoning, various other things, and there are two sides to this argument. And some folks have documentation to support it. Others say, well, I remember hearing this. The point is, that's out there, and there is a feeling among some folks that we've said one thing, and as time passes, and I recognize time passes, things change. Back in 2005, we didn't have quite the need for affordable, for purchase housing as we do today. I get that. I support housing for ownership. Not a fan, certainly would never support rentals in that area, wouldn't support high density housing. But in trying to weigh this as the district council member, all other things being equal, it's a nice project, great looking project, beautiful homes, in my opinion, wrong place. But in any other circumstance, I could be very supportive of this. I just don't think it's in the right place for the primary reason I come back to at the end of the day, when all is said and done, is I gave people who reached out to me my word, and I said, if you elect me, this is what I'll do, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. So that's why I don't support the project. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Any other comments? Ms. Duff?
Yeah, the project isn't in Lehigh. It's outside the boundaries. And I think we have the people who are abutting next to this development, Lehigh Shadows. We shouldn't ignore their support to say that that doesn't matter. And there's opposition and there's support, and Lehigh Shadows is right next to it. I think it's a good project, beautiful homes, as you said. One thing I like to see as we transition in zoning is being able to have options, housing choices in where you live. And why I believe that is because these are huge lots in Lehigh. They're huge. But if you were going to downsize because you're older and decide it's just too much property for me to manage, you're going to have to leave the community. Or if your kids want to go out on their own and they want to buy something, they're going to have to leave the community because most young people starting out cannot afford multi-million-dollar homes. They need these prices. So it builds community so that you can stay in your community, whatever your phase of life is. Your church, the stores you go to, the coffee shop, your neighbors, that community that builds. And throughout our phases of our own lives, whether we're young or a young professional or have a family or getting older, we transition our living. And I wouldn't have to want to start over in a different community because I don't have any housing options where I live. Also, I look at the retail along McKellips, and I know how beautiful Lehigh is. I love it, it's gorgeous. But I look at the supporting retail around there, especially around Center. That supporting retail is supporting the trailer homes, the manufactured homes. It is not supporting, there's a Goodwill, and there's a Dollar Tree, there's a Circle K, there's a gas station, a pool supply. Nothing wrong with any of those, but you need a certain amount of people living within a vicinity to be able to bring the amenities nearer to your community, to have maybe the coffee shop or the restaurant or the retail that you want. But the current retail is serving only what abuts to it. And I think with more density, that you'll be able to have a community that offers a little bit. And why does that matter? Well, it's more enjoyable, yes, but then we're getting into walkability of neighborhoods because you have amenities within a short walk or bike ride or whatever. You're building communities. That needs density. It's been an issue in our city is that in areas that are on near busy streets or whatever, we don't have the retail selection that we want. And it is because of the way we build. We're not mixing it up. We are doing one segment or another, and it doesn't provide what a retailer needs. Anyway, I support the project. I think it's a good project. I like that it's for sale. These are great family houses or young professionals to grow into families, and it supports the multi-generational living that I'd like to see in a community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Duff. Any comment? Ms. Goforth?
Yeah, so my issue, I think, as you can tell, is with the citizen participation process. We have to get that right. And I can't quite, whether, in this instance, whether it was letters not received or summary of concerns not included, I'm not getting satisfactory answers from that. And we have to have a process that's consistent and transparent and that our residents can count on every time so that they trust these decisions that we make. And I can't support, I would like to see the process, I would like to see it sent back and the process done in a consistent, transparent manner. So for that reason, I won't be supporting tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Goforth. Vice Mayor?
Just out of curiosity, sent back where? What do you mean? Well, you said you want it sent
Start the
back.
process.
So here's my yeah. Oh, you want to start the whole thing? Okay. I agree with you on the process portion, and look, I supported the mayor when he was a council member for District 1. We didn't have anybody come forward. I know there was some concerns, but nobody came forward to this council meeting and say, that we don't feel that the process was handled correctly. And I'm torn because the mayor lives literally in the Lehigh area, but the council member for District 1, Mr. Adams, has some significant concerns that the process was not followed, as Councilmember Goforth mentioned. My position would be if we're not gonna approve it because of a process issue, I would rather see it continued so that the process, they don't have to start over. And we just continue us to the date uncertain to allow the process to work through to see if there's any more wiggle room to make some deals made. Because I do think there's a lot of good things about this project. I am concerned about and the council members concerned about the process. So if that's going to be the action, I'd rather than reset the whole thing and start over, I would rather afford the opportunity to try to fix what can be fixed. Because I'll be honest, I don't think we can get to 100% agreement on this, and it may be that this kind of comes back very similar. But to scrap it and start over, I'd rather not do that, but I do support your position on this as well as a council member for the district.
I just want to say one thing about that, is that we're setting a precedence. So zoning cases, every council meeting, and if someone wants to stall it, if they want to not happen, just say you didn't get the notice. That's what we're doing. So I'd be very careful about denying a project based on someone said they sent it and someone said they didn't. And because it'll be a very good tool to go forward. It's very dangerous. The mail process is the mail. But second of all, we work very hard with our development services and planning and zoning and our planning director on the efficiency of getting through projects as quickly as possible and minimizing processes, being accurate and efficient so that we can get housing projects out the door as quickly as possible. We put a lot of pressure on our staff, but as council, the wind's blowing the wrong way, we'll continue it or deny it or whatever. The continuance, if we are interested in passing housing in a productive amount of time, we have to own that process ourselves. Do I think if we continue it and we go through the process all over again 6 months from now, will it have a different outcome? If you think it'd be a different outcome, that'd be fine. But when you hear from developers and people who are saying, what's wrong with the housing and why can't it be built quick enough, we got to own part of that. And saying, we'll take as long as we want. We'll take a year. A year, 2 years is not unusual at all. And our planning process is moving it up to weeks. At what point are we going to own the continuance?
Thank you, Mr. Adams.
You know, this is, I hear that, you know, let's just throw up an objection. The difference here is, and I think we all get to know people as we settle into our role as a council member. The people who are organized in Lehigh, the Lehigh Community Association, I absolutely believe they're telling the truth. I'm taking the time to get to know who they are, what they're about, and what their concerns are. This is not some cheap stall tactic. I would not buy that for a moment. I understand that people use those tactics. So I hear that concern. The problem is when we do infill, and I consider this infill, and it's on the, true, it's not in Lehigh proper, but it's on the borderline. And what it's going to do is no matter how long we talk about pork chops and left-hand turns and right-hand turns and berms and all this other stuff, this will result in more traffic down center to the north and right on Lehigh Road. Let's be realistic. Some are going to go south to McKellips. Some are going to go north. Some will use that key code or whatever and go east into the other neighborhood. So this is a situation where we have some genuine people who have organized over many years to protect their community, and they're here saying in all sincerity, we don't feel the process was done correctly. And I have no reason to suspect that what they're saying is false. And I've also known Mr. Lake for many years, and I think he is an honest and truthful man. So again, we come back to the process, but the process isn't working as is evidenced in this case. Something's wrong. Something's broken. And to me, honestly, if I were sitting out there or not sitting up here, it would kind of look to me like, well, the deck is a little bit stacked. We're the little guys, and they're the big guys. So I think we need to do something.
Ms. Spilsbury.
I don't think for one second that Councilmember Duff was suggesting that this group of people were doing this on purpose. That's not what she was saying. She's saying, I'm speaking for you, but what she's saying is it sets the precedence that people could then use it for that. So I want to make that clear because I know that Jen was not saying that. I also was going to vouch for Sean Lake's character too. I don't think it's fair to call him a liar or that he's doing something that is underhanded. So I was going to do that as well. So thanks for doing that, Councilmember Adams. I will just say that looking at a map of this area, driving through this area, it seems very clear to me that these homes fit the surrounding area. They fit with the mobile home parks right there. They fit with the feel. I love that north property cannot be developed, so you have a built-in buffer there that will not be developed. This is not Lehigh, and I appreciate, Rich, that you want to stand firm on those campaign promises you made. This isn't Lehigh. And speaking from 5 years of experience, all we do is deal with NIMBYism. It's really hard. Every single person I've ever talked to agrees we need more housing in our city, and no one wants it anywhere near them. So when these are for sale houses, these are not rentals, which is what everyone's afraid of, why I don't understand. But so I feel like this type of product is very much what we need. We know that because of our housing plan. And this is something that we need in Mesa, and this feels like, especially knowing and getting all of the emails and hearing from you tonight, that we have neighbors right next to this development that want it developed, and they're not fighting it, and I need to honor what they're saying as well. And then just on the process part, I hate that we have this issue with the process. Again, I'm part of the reason why we changed it to have staff be a part of it, because I didn't know who to believe. Do you believe the attorney that says their staff did it, or do you believe the neighbors that say they didn't hear anything about it? I mean, then you're just in this really hard. We all know we have children or spouses that throw mail away that we never got to see. Like, so many things. I got my neighbor's SRP bill yesterday, right? Like, things happen with the mail. I've already belabored that point, but. So to me, I don't like that it was done this way. It does not in any way, I think, require that we go back to the beginning, start it over, start the process. I don't think we'd end up anywhere different than we are right now. Knowing that one of the main neighborhood leaders got an email in November, and how tight-knit their community is, that could have spread. They would have known. And I don't think it took very long. If some of the people didn't get the letter, I don't think it took very long for that to spread so that they did all feel like they have a voice. And we've gotten lots of emails, so I know that those voices have been heard because I have heard you. Even if we don't agree at the end of the day, we heard your voice. So I do think that even though we need to make sure that we're doing what we need to do to make sure the neighborhood process happens, and looking at procedures and processes, to me, there's just no reason to go back on this one.
Thank you, Ms. Spilsbury. Mr. Reddy?
I'll join the conversation as well because I'm the last one here. But I go back to, hear the concerns on the process. I think we need to tweak some of the pieces on the mail, but that's why we have layers of other announcements as well, right? Like Mary's mentioned and some of the staff mentioned the different types of notices that go out. And I go back to the quality piece, right? As far as this development, I think I heard everybody say, even Mr. Adams, who's a district council member, that it's a quality development, right? Like it's a quality development. This is what we want to see in Mesa, right? Like the quality development that is for sale, right? Especially in West Mesa, where we don't have a lot of options to build for sale product anymore because we are built out mostly, and we see a lot more rental opportunities coming to the council, and so that's where I support this project because the quality, it's even an HOA for sale product, and just hearing the opportunities to redevelop a piece of land that is blighted. I've seen a lot of blighted land in my district that we took an opportunity to redevelop, and now they're flourishing, right? We see the Alma School in Southern that was blighted for 20 years, gated, they did everything, there was crime there all the time. Now it's flourishing with new opportunities. There's a Sprouts going up across the street now. And so we have to look at these things and how we look at info and do that correctly, of course. But when we see this type of quality development being introduced, I think we gotta make sure that we look at these opportunities for our families moving forward in the future, right? So that's my comments, Mayor. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I'm going to wrap it up here. I think in the early 2000s, Ms. McCroskey and myself, we developed the sub-area plan. And I specifically asked these landowners if they wanted to participate in our Lehigh sub-area. And they said, well, what does that mean? So we talked about the optics of how the sub-area would be and what it would protect and preserve Lehigh. I consider this part of Lehigh. I live there generationally, and I've tried everything I could to protect our Lehigh area. The landowner said, I do not want to be in the Lehigh sub-area. Consequently, we drew a line not including them as part of the sub-area because they wanted some redevelopment and development as landowners to gain as much, financial income they could as a family. And for disclosure, I've known them my whole life, and my parents as well. What I really like about the process, everyone that's spoken here tonight has known about the process from our planning and zoning meeting. It was a vote of 7-0 to approve Price Manor II. When I fought for Price Manor I, it was the appropriate thing to do because we needed attainable housing in our community. We're missing a broad band of attainable housing. Yes, it's close to Lehigh. Yes, is there going to be traffic? Yes, there is. Do you know what it costs today to buy an R9 house today? Mr. Lake brought up a little bit about it, but the minimum price tag, if you can find it in Mesa, is $775,000 up to $1.4 million. Now, I think you want to buy a home in a really nice location at that price point. Now, again, we have a developer close in our Lehigh area, not in the sub area, selling homes today at $850,000 to $1.4 million. That is not attainable for the people and families that I would like to see in our city, and especially in the Center Street area. I can tell you, I drive Center Street almost every day. I drive my agricultural equipment up and down Center Street between the farms that I lease. I understand the traffic issues that are there, and one thing I do not want to do is put any of our equestrian users in harm's way. But we do know that the roads have the capacity to handle additional traffic. Not that there's a lot of traffic, but we do have our Lehigh road traffic volume studies that go on, and we do know that it has increased somewhat, but that doesn't kill this project. One of the other things, we do have affidavits knowing that these letters were sent, and because the participants who have spoken here tonight have attended the planning and zoning meeting, expressed their concern, our planning and zoning board voted 7-0 to approve this project. I respect that vote because they analyzed everything out there just as we're doing tonight. The Lehigh Sports Park, I can talk about that. That was controversial for our Lehigh Community Improvement Association. I served on that board and president for 14, 15 years with Michelle and others. I understand the complexities of our rural agricultural area. However, if this area needs to grow, this is the last parcel adjoining our Lehigh sub-area. If anything wants to be developed in the Lehigh sub-area, it has to be larger properties, either R43 or larger. This does not comply with that. So I like the reasons that was talked about, Mr. Lake and Mr. Sweeney, about having no short-term rentals in this parcel. That kills an area because it really degrades an area by having short-term rentals. You know, we can work out some of the semantics. Okay, a left turn on Center Street, you go towards McKellips. I have sat night after night when the Lehigh Sports Park has been in play and watched 99% of the people turn south to McKellips to exit and egress the area. There's no reason to go through our Lehigh area unless families choose to buy these homes and their family members live in the Lehigh area. They're going to go visit them. They're going to take their golf carts. That's what they do in Lehigh. I mean, somebody laughed, but yeah, that's what happens in Lehigh. And there's some horse traffic, but our stables are leaving today. There's not as many horses as there are today. However, there are some. And we have our swine 4-H group that does swine down Lehigh Road. It's pretty fun to see that, as well as our horse equestrian groups. I find this as a viable project to find our middle housing that we need in our Mesa area. Single family homes are being outpaced by multifamily by 10 to 1. And that's unacceptable. We have to put some guardrails on that. With that, I think I've indicated which way I'm going to vote on this, but I'm going to, unless there's no other comments from council, I'm going to entertain a motion for approval. We have a motion for Ms. Spilsbury, a second by Ms. Duff. Please cast your vote. The yeses have it. Thank you very much. Motion passes. Okay, if any wants to leave, we still have quite a few on the agenda. However, I need to back up. I want to, Mr. City Manager, with all due respect, there are some that are sitting here for quite some time. Council, if I have about domestic violence?
Mayor, they had to leave, but we'll get them rescheduled for the next meeting. Next month is actually Domestic Violence Awareness Month, so we can have them back at the October 6th council meeting. So,
is it something we said?
What's that?
Is it something we said? What's the volume?
Child care.
Okay, well, for those in the audience that are remaining, so October is Domestic Violence Month, and so we will have a proclamation and a picture for that. So,
and everyone can wear purple that day.
Pardon?
And everyone can wear purple that day, Mayor.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Ms. Spilsbury, you can wear purple that day?
Very excited about that.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving on. I have, if I haven't missed anything, 10B, is that what I have here?
9A.
Oh, I missed a 9A. I'll entertain a motion for a 9A. That would be a continuance, correct?
Correct.
Mayor and Council, I think it's 9A and 9B.
Okay, 9A and 9B. Copy that. Is there a motion for continuance on 9A and B? This is zoning case 24-00708, also known as Park North Multifamily Development.
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
So we've discussed this project at length in our June 2nd council meeting. I provided a rather detailed information why I was not in support of this project. That project was continued to today, and we haven't seen any changes to that based, what's before us is the applicant has requested another continuance to date uncertain. And I am willing to support the applicant as long as he's addressed the concerns that I have raised in those comments, which, since this has been a long meeting, I'm not going to repeat them. They're about 2.5 pages, by the way. But I also want to ensure transparency in the process, that we have public participation, and I would value the planning and zoning board's perspective on any revisions to the project or future project that the applicant brings forward. So with that, I'd like to make a motion to continue items 9A and 9B to date uncertain, and with the requirement that this project go back to the Planning and Zoning Board for its review and recommendations.
Okay, Ms. Spilsbury?
Councilmember Summers, did you say that the 2.5 pages were from you, from the neighborhood? Who did you say that?
No, they were, that was my statement that.
Oh, thank you.
My statement was 2.5 pages, and I'm happy to do it again, but I don't think you want to hear it.
I thought that you were saying you gave them 2.5 pages. So,
No.
I'm a little bit unsure that anything's going to change. So do you have some sort of confidence that something's going to change? So it's not, you didn't send them a list of things. I don't know why I misheard you, I guess.
So there is a considerable list of things to change, and in conversations with the city manager, who I'm sure he's confident that there will be changes to this plan, that really this isn't viable. So, Mr. Butler?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the applicant is here. Yeah, and so he may want to say this, so I don't speak on their behalf, but I was contacted by Rose Law Group on Friday requesting this continuance with the desire that they wanted to work on potential changes that might be acceptable to get this project approved to council. So I don't want to go as far and speak for them as Councilmember Summers, Vice Mayor Summers alluded to, that I'm confident there will be changes. I'm just alluding to what the request was.
So I guess that's what I just wanted to make sure. That came then from the applicant and not because Mr. Summers thinks there's going to be
it was
changes
the applicant
necessarily. Okay.
Yeah, the applicant reached out to the office.
Okay.
Can we have the applicant speak? Because I'm still confused if we're stopping the show because of reasons unknown.
Come on up, applicant.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Council. Chris Webb with Rose Law Group. So to try to answer everyone's questions, we have had some recent conversations, and it is clear that some changes still need to be made. So we requested the continuance. We have Vice Mayor Summers' list from the June 2nd hearing. It is our intent, yes, to make changes. So I just want to confirm that. Our hope is that we can bring back something that the entire council can support.
Thank you, Chris.
And the community.
Correct. Yes, sir.
This was on agenda before our summer break. So it's been, already 4 months? Yeah. Okay. And you believe that this is, I don't know.
Time will tell. Thank you, Mr. Webb. All right, we have a motion by Vice Mayor, second by Mr. Adams to have a continuance for this. Cast your vote. It's approved. Thank you. Moving on, items 10A and 10B are a presentation on proposed utility rate adjustments and adoption of the notice of intention to adjust utility rates. We're just want you to know we are not approving anything about utility rates. We're opening up public discussion for that, and that vote will take place in November. So, Mr. Ritchell, Brian. After the presentation, I'm going to go through some blue cards, and council will ask questions.
There we go.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Brian Ritchell, Office of Management and Budget Director. Tonight, I just wanted to go, I know we've had discussions with the Audit and Finance Committee, detailed discussion with the council itself, also on the utility rates. But for the notice of intent, what I want to do is just briefly go through a presentation on and recapping some of the items that were discussed during those meetings and some of the recommendations from both the Audit and Finance Committee and also the City Council. So just a quick overview of our financial principles. These are our financial principles. You've seen them before. There are a few of these that will go in that were kind of main focuses for the Audit and Finance Committee and the Council. Those main focuses were the equity between residential and non-residential rates, growth that pays for growth, also conservation of discretionary water use, and then smooth rates throughout the forecast. Also, what was discussed is some of what the other municipalities are doing. And as I mentioned in the study session with council, the philosophy for the city of Mesa has been, as I mentioned, is some of the principles is smooth rates, rate adjustments throughout the forecast. Also, reviewing and doing incremental rate adjustments on a yearly basis and taking a review. As I mentioned, there's a few other cities that are now looking at that process and seeing the benefit of that process that the city of Mesa has been doing for years. So just to recap, this is the financial forecast that was presented to council during the adoption of the budget for fiscal year 25-26. And the two concerns that the city has is highlighted here in red, to where the net sources and uses were negative almost throughout the forecast. Also, a big concern was the percentage of reserve fund dropping below the 8%. As you see in the last 3 years, fiscal year 27-28 through 29-30, we had 4.9, 4.6, and then 7. So that was a concern during our budget, and during that budget time, we mentioned that we would be reviewing that and coming back with during the rate discussion. So what was recommended at the Audit and Finance Committee, this is the financial forecast that was recommended. And there's a few things that the city reviewed and made a few changes to that forecast. One of them is the restructuring of our debt. As mentioned in the study session, we looked at, instead of paying off 35% of our principal for debt in the first 10 years, we reduced it slightly to 30%. That helped with reducing some of the debt payments in the near future. Also, what we did is, working closely with the water resources, we deferred $180 million of repairs and maintenance to our water and wastewater system outside of the forecast. So that is not in there either. What we also did too was looked at one of our principles, which is equity between residential and non-residential. And what we did there was we wanted to bring that forward and try to get residential and non-residential rates and revenue and consumption, or the revenue, equal. So in this forecast, it was equal in fiscal year 29 and 30. So with this presentation to Audit and Finance, what they recommended was accelerating the equity between residential and non-residential. So what we did is we reduced residential rate adjustments, but then increased the non-residential rate increases. And with that, we were able to move it forward, as I'll show. And then also what we were looking at was non-residential landscape usage rate adjustment for current recommended rate adjustment. So what we were doing, current recommended, was at a 15%. And with that discussion, they asked us to look and see about raising it for, as I mentioned, one of the focuses was conservation of discretionary water use. The other one was reviewing residential user tier rate adjustments. So this shows that what we were able to do was from going from 15% in landscape, commercial, or non-residential to 20%. We were able to move the equity up a year. So currently we're in fiscal year 25-26. So when these rate adjustments go into effect, it's really only for a half a fiscal year. The next full fiscal year, so it'd be really about 2.5 years instead of 3.5 years of that equity. And as I mentioned before, as you see here in the top, which was presented to Audit and Finance, residential revenue compared to non-residential revenue currently is 55 to 45. So residential revenue coming into the fund is 55% and 45% is non-residential. However, the residential consumption is 49% compared to non-residential, which is 51%. So non-residential is consuming more of the water, but the revenue coming in is less than what their equal share is for the consumption. So that was a concern, and we wanted to move that up to from fiscal year 28-29 to fiscal year 27-28.
Brian, I just might want to add that we have found that the water usage for residential is dropping and commercial and industrial is increasing. And therefore, that's the parity and equity to help do that. I know Ms. Goforth, she chaired that committee and requested that action item.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. So as you see, yes, it's only been the past few years to where previously the city of Mesa was heavily residential. And as it grew, the city started diversifying and bringing non-residential, commercial businesses and development to the city. As they did that, commercial started consuming more and more of the water, and that equity just in the past 2 to 3 years has now become commercial, non-residential, consuming more of the water. However, the way the rates were, it was more dominant on the residential side to where more of the revenue was coming from residential, even though they were not consuming as much as the non-residential.
Very good. Thank you for that explanation. Is that correct, Ms. Goforth?
It is, and thank you, Brian, I appreciate you all moving that up a year. I think it's important that we get that done faster, get to parity and then beyond, which is the rate of revenue brought in equals that of your consumption. So, thank you.
So with the recommended rates in the notice of intent is on the left-hand side. So what I wanted to briefly show you here is what the impact would be on the current bill of a residential, multi-unit, commercial, and commercial landscape. And then on the right-hand side is what the next item that council will be considering is a capacity fee. So if the council moves forward in adopting a capacity fee, the rates for residential would drop a little bit. And so there's the effective percentage. So for residents, it would be a 4.3 if as is. If there's a capacity fee, it would be a combined of 4.2. So it would be roughly about $1.89 to $1.84 impact. This is a monthly impact for the resident for that. And then down at the bottom, as you'll see the commercial landscape, this is where council asked us to look at that landscape. So in this, we raised it up to 20%. And so the effective rate would be a 13.6% increase across the board. And then same with the wastewater, the impact, an 8% effective increase for a resident and a 9% for commercial. Should a capacity fee be adopted and move forward, it would drop about 0.5%. So with that, the typical customer, if you have 3 of our main utilities, the water, wastewater, and solid waste, you would see roughly about almost just less than a $6 monthly impact on your utility bill. And then down below is if you have electric and natural gas. So the notice of intent that is in front of you for adoption today, this is the forecast should that notice of intent move forward. And so as you see that our net sources and uses with those adjustments, that has moved forward to positive from the fiscal year was I think 29-30 during the budget process, is now a year earlier at 28-29, but also if you look, the residential, water residential, the top one is at 4%. That was at 6% previously. So we're able to lessen the impact on the residents, but bring that burden to the non-residential commercial side due to us trying to get the equality between the two accounts. Should the council move forward with a capacity fee, as you notice, we are able to make it even lower for the residents, and some of the non-commercial also on the usage rates for water and wastewater. What I wanted to show you here is with the net sources and uses, they do increase. However, what this gives the city the opportunity to do is review extensively with water resources the projects that have been deferred. So as I mentioned before, $180 million projects were pushed out of this forecast. What this does is that we'll be able to move those repairs and maintenance up into the forecast, so we're able to make those fixes in maintenance a lot quicker than what we were able to do. So here's a comparison of the rates. So water, for water residential, water commercial, the non-capacity is on the left-hand side, and then if the council moves forward, it's on the right-hand side. So it would drop a little bit for the residents. Also, water commercial would drop a little bit, and for wastewater also. So this is just a comparison side by side, should a capacity fee move forward. And what I wanted to show you here is this is an updated homeowners comparison. It does say estimated of April of 26. This does include some of our neighbors' adjustments. For instance, the town of Gilbert is moving forward with their 3-year plan. This is their 3rd year of a 25% increase in water. The city of Chandler has also mentioned that they are looking to do a 15% increase on water, 15% increase on wastewater, and a 6% on solid waste. That is also included in here. So what this shows you is that even with these adjustments, the city is still 3rd from the bottom of the most affordable. We are one of the most affordable cities within the valley. And so the next steps would be tonight, council action on the notice of intent. And just as what was mentioned, this is the notice of intent. So what this does is just sets the maximum rate adjustment that the city can do. It can always lower it, but it just can't go any higher. So that's why we have, what we have here is the highs of that was discussed with the city council. And should the city want to reduce, they're able to reduce. If the city council wishes to go any higher, we would then start the process over again with the notice of intent, and it would extend into probably next calendar year. So November 17th would be the introduction of the utility rated ordinances. And then December 1 is when the council would take action on those ordinances, and these rates would go into effect January 1.
Thank you, Brian. Could you go back to slide 15 and just leave it up there?
Mm-hmm.
Council, I'll entertain any discussion. Julie, Ms. Pillsbury, sorry.
Brian, sorry, can you stay up here for a sec? Last year we did 5% for water. Am I remembering that right?
I think it was 4.5, wasn't it?
These all, every year starts to blend together, right?
So last year for water, the usage charge, we did a 6% for residential.
So, and then this year we're proposing, if we did the capacity fee, 3.5.
If we did a capacity fee, yes, it would be a 3.5% adjustment.
So I know last year the average impact to a homeowner was $5 a month, and I feel like we're lower this year, but yet it's $5.96 or whatever. Is it just that the other things that are in there are maybe a little bit higher?
Yes, Mayor, Council Member Spilsbury, I'd have to look to see how that comparison. Also, what you're looking at too is as you raise rates a little bit, that percentage, even though if it may be a 4%, it's going to be a little higher compared to what it was previously on a lower dollar amount. So it's kind of like if you do a 4% increase on $7, that's a bigger increase than if you did a 4% increase on $5.
Okay, that
so
makes sense.
It does kind of compound a little bit, and that's one of the reasons why the city of Mesa has done that on an annual basis, doing increments, smaller increments.
Mm-hmm.
Because of that compounding effect. And that's where some of the municipalities in the valley are seeing that and seeing the benefits of that.
Okay. And so instead of not doing anything for a few years, then getting hit with the big one. I know we're doing this a couple of months early this year so that we can have the public be able to have more of some input and say. So how are we educating the public on this and making this a little bit clearer and easier to understand and helping people to understand why we do have to do utility rates each year?
So yes, Mayor, Councilmember Spilsbury, we have started this much earlier. We used to just do the public hearing in December when the utility rate adoption was going, but we decided to move this up to spur that conversation as part of the notice of intent. They're more than welcome to contact the Office of Management and Budget, but also Water Resources or any of the utilities to discuss those rates, and we're more than welcome to. We wanted to start this because previously we really didn't have any of those discussions. So I think this year, and then working with the city manager to see how this works, and then maybe improving the process next year.
Okay. There's some accusations out there that we didn't let people know, but this is how we let people know, right? Is this meeting tonight is how we're letting people know?
Mayor, Councilmember Spilsbury, yes, that is. To let people know that we have started the process. There is a 60-day notice, so we will not take action on this for another 60 days, which would be November 17th, of introducing those ordinances. And then in between that time, we can have that discussion. Residents, customers can have that discussion with city staff, with city council, and begin those to then have that decision made in December when it comes.
Okay, great, thank you.
What I'd like to do is read some blue cards and then have some input from our residents here. So I have some blue cards that are opposed to this, and that would be Lisa Pena, opposed, Debbie Bressel, opposed, Jeff Klussman, opposed, David Smith, L. Smith, opposed, and Patricia Book, opposed. Read into the record. Next, we'll hear for those that would like to speak. Rick Swalback. Is Rick here? Rick, come forward, please. Thank you, sir. Thanks for your patience. You picked a great night.
First time. Thank you, City Mayor, Council Member, and staff. I urge you to delay the notice of intent to adjust the utility rates until we, Mesa residents, have clearly information about our utility bills. Here are 3 areas where transparency is needed. The utility payment breakdown. Many residents don't realize that 30% of their utility bill funds general government purposes, not just water, wastewater, or trash services. This practice is in place since 1946, and it isn't clear. I propose utility bills clearly show how much goes to utilities versus government uses. The second is utility rate system clarity. The purpose rate hike aims to raise $40 million, 8% increase. Only $5.4 million, 2.4%, covers operating costs, which seems reasonable. However, $12 million goes to general fund transfers, and $18.5 million covers debt services from prior bond approvals, decisions made in June or earlier. These account for 76% of the increase, but this connection isn't clear in the proposal. Residents deserve to know how past budgets and bond decisions drive rate spikes. The third is use median customer data instead of reference of typical customer use of a median customer, where 50% of the customers use or pay more and 50% less. This gives us more accurate picture of the resident's impact. Please prioritize these transfer measures before moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Next, we'll hear from Scott Webster. Mr. Webster, followed by Will Stasik. Is that right? if Will's still here. Scott, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Council. Appreciate the opportunity to address you. I'm going to second what was just said, and really, without redoing this without restating what was said, and also understanding that I don't mean to relitigate the 30% as I understand it. I'm fairly new here. And as I understand it, that was a big area of contention for a while. I'm not asking to get into that argument. What I'm asking is, can we put that on our utility bills? Can we show that? What I'm recommending is that you change the name of the utility bill to utility bill and government supplement, since it seems like we do pay for both on that bill, and that be broken out. And I think that would help that would go a long way in helping people to understand that that's what's truly happening. My basis for doing this, like I said, I'm fairly new. I was surprised to learn that this is how things are arranged. And again, you have to have money to run a city, and I understand that. But just wanting to understand why it was arranged, I'm trying to learn that. But I've talked to a number of residents in and around where I live, and they're also very much unaware of the fact that there is that 30% transfer that goes over. So I'd just like to, I guess what I'm asking is that potentially you defer this conversation until some of that information is able to be disseminated out more, and people who apparently aren't aware but should be, given, I guess, the fight that took place a couple of years ago over this, they need to be aware. So,
thank you, sir. You bet. Will? Is Will still here? Okay. I think I butchered his name, but regardless, he is opposed and he wished to speak. Council discussion?
I have just one question that came to me over the weekend. I was reading some article, and I can't find it right now, but it showed the amount of CAP water that we use, the amount of on-project water, and then wells and, groundwater, whatever. And it basically was showing that like almost 60% was CAP, and then, on project with SRP sources were like closer to 30-some%. Oh, yeah. And I always thought it was the other way. Or is it because of the increased water demand of our industrial users that has flipped?
Mayor, Councilmember Duff, if I understood your question, you were looking for our allocation breakdown percentage?
Chris, could you say who you are?
Yeah.
Sure. Christopher Hazard, Water Resources Director, City of Mesa. 55% of our water is cap water, and about 35%, 30 to 40% is SRP, and then the balance is groundwater pumping.
And has that changed over the last couple of years? Because I thought it was inverse.
It's been pretty static for several years.
Okay, all right. Maybe it was just my memory. Okay, thanks.
Ms. Pillsbury.
Yeah, I would just make the comment, I didn't know about this either until I started, when I ran for council, I found out about the utility fund transfer, and I've lived in Mesa my whole entire life and have paid water bills for 28 years. I've been married for 28 years, so I've been paying my own bills and didn't know that. So I definitely agree with you that it's not widely known, but it's not because the city's trying to keep that information from people. And so I think sometimes that's the assumption. We don't have a primary property tax. We're the largest city, I think, maybe I'm wrong. We're the largest city in the country that doesn't have a primary property tax, right? So it is unique, and I think people don't understand that part either. I don't think the homeowners comparison is still on the screen. Is it still on the screen?
It is.
Oh, is it? Okay. I just think if you look at that, even without the primary property tax, we still are the third lowest when compared to other cities. So I do think there's definitely education that needs to be done. There's a great video on our city website. I keep telling them to put it on the main page because it's so helpful. I think to kind of explain why we have the utility fund transfer, what we use it for. It's so hard to compare city to city because we do things so differently. So I get that. I don't, I think if utility bills all of a sudden said utility bill and general fund supplemental, I think it would confuse even more people, and then they'd be like, what does this mean, right? So, but is there more education that should be done? Absolutely. I think we need to do a better job. On 5 years on council, I'm stunned at how transparent the city is. And we're accused often of doing things behind closed doors or under the table or whatever the different phrases are, when actually everything is incredibly transparent, and there's layers and layers and layers and levels of checks and balances to make sure that things are done transparently. So I would just, say that too, that I appreciate the sentiment that we need to do a better job of education, and I agree. But I think some of those points get lost sometimes in the conversation. And also just that this is the start of this discussion. So to me, it wouldn't be like, let's not delay the start of the discussion, because this is the start of the discussion. We're not going to actually vote on this till the dates are gone now, but November 17th, is that right? Yeah. Oh, November 17th is the introduction, and then still 2 weeks later is when we would actually vote. So we have a while to have these discussions still, and so I don't think it makes sense to delay the start when we're already doing this a little bit further ahead of time than we normally would.
Vice Mayor?
Yeah, I think Julie made a lot of the points I was going to make. Clearly, you've done some homework, right? So you know, as in the 1940s at this 30% transfer. Nobody knows that, because what other city does that? It's just a very unique decision that the council back in that day decided this is the way that we're going to fund this city. Rather than a property tax, we're going to use a transfer from the utility fund to fund general expenses. And that's what they decided. There's been at least 2 votes, public votes, to replace that with a primary tax. Down in flames. People aren't very comfortable with the transfer, but what they hate more is a primary property tax, and I'm one of them. So I think of all the bad systems to fund, this is probably the least worst of those things, but that's a conversation that our community needs to continue to have, because I think it's a fair assessment. Oh, by the way, we don't have a tax on food. Yeah, we don't have a tax on food, so we do have that. But this is really about the utility fund and how we keep this healthy to make sure that we have enough water, we can do our wastewater, sewer, and those type of things. What you heard a little earlier about how much we get most of our supply from the Colorado River water, that can be an expense. That's probably our most expensive source. Would you agree?
The cost is doubled.
Yeah, the cost is doubled. One of the projects that we undertook, and there was a question about bonds and how much debt we have. There's been a lot of projects to ensure that we have water. One of those projects is a central reuse pipeline that goes from our plant down to the Gila River. And the Gila River then gets our non-potable water to use on their crops. And what we get in exchange is a trade of their Colorado River share, which comes with their priority. So that community is higher in priority for their water rights. So we get the step in line for that, and at their preferred rate, which is much cheaper. The issue is the sale of bonds makes sure that we can make that exchange happen. So we save some operational costs for a bond project that's going to be paid off. Do you remember? It's a return on investment. 7 years for the return on investment. So that's a pretty good return on investment. There are also several other projects we're replacing leaking pipes. We're updating Signal Butte water treatment plant, which will supply drinking water. And there's another project that escapes me for the moment. But when we sell bonds for those things, we don't throw them all at our ratepayers, myself included, at the same time. We issue bonds over time so that we can level out how much we pay at any given moment. So let's say 25 million this year in new bonds, but we also pay off old bonds. So we avoid this up and down of what the rates could be, because if we have a $100 million project, we don't want to issue $100 million in bonds and then have to jack our rates up like some other cities are doing right now because they deferred the maintenance of their utility for a long time. These kind of discussions that we're having, and at the end of the day, you might not agree, and that's great, but these are the kinds of things that we need to have for that transparency component to it. So one of the things, and I'll close the comment because it's been a long night, but is part of transparency when you look at, and please don't pull this back up, but I encourage everybody to go to our website and look at these slides. And what's interesting is you'll see things like the adopted budget with forecasts over the next 4 years that estimate a 6% increase, and then that's a 5.5% increase, and then it's a 3.5%. That's confusing, and Mr. Butler, the more we could simplify this and tell, how do we get to these numbers? Because people see a 6% increase in a couple of years and panic and think that's locked in. But the issue we're going to talk about next, hopefully more briefly, I'm talking to myself, is there are adjustments that are made over time that can positively impact and drive down the number. So rather than another 6% increase, it might be 3 or 3.5. And those little incremental increases make it far more manageable for people than wild fluctuations in the bill. So the simpler we can make this and understand, and it can be complicated, I think that goes to better transparency of what we're trying to accomplish and talking about how important these bonds are as well. So, thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Adams, please.
I'll be very brief. This is a complicated process, and I think that having now had a chance to look deeply into the budget process and what have you, I'm comfortable that if someone looks, they can find the transparency for what we're doing. As someone who's always looking for a way to see if we can minimize the impact on the residents primarily, I'm encouraged to see that the projections are starting to move in a more favorable direction. So that's something I'm very encouraged by. I'm not seeing, because we have this 60 days until we go into November to continue this conversation for people to ask questions. I'm not sure if this council will have an opportunity to debate this between now and then, but certainly we will then while information's gathered. I don't see, again, as someone who doesn't like increases, I don't see any advantage to postponing setting this date at this point in time. We don't set it now. We just delay the conversation. We delay the debate. We delay the inspection and investigation and discussion. So if it's simply a delay game, that doesn't get us where we need to be, and it doesn't get anything resolved. And in my opinion, this 60 days between now and November is an adequate amount of time for this to have its due hearing. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Anything else? Ms. Goforth?
I'll just chime in real quick and agree with not really seeing a purpose and value in delaying this, because this is what starts the conversation, and this is what we want to have. This is what we want to do from here until the final vote, is to talk to you all, talk to our residents, and find out what they think about this, educate them on. I won't, go into all the different points, but I think the more that we do get information out and we educate our residents about what we're doing to secure the future of water and energy for the city of Mesa, the more they will understand the investment that we're making and the cost of that. Again, I think we can go back and forth on the philosophy of whether you have a primary property tax or whether you do a transfer or not. But I think the point is that we're making the right investments to secure our water and energy future. And we're not even keeping up with our costs. I don't think that slide was shown, that our costs have gone up exponentially more than what our rate adjustments have been. And they've been below even CPI. So we really do try to keep that steady, smooth adjustment each year so that we don't have to make those giant spikes to cover those unexpected increases. So that's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Pillsbury?
One more point that I think is helpful, that we're all residents of the city too, so we're all paying these rates and we're all feeling pinched from every direction. And so already through this process, the Audit and Finance Committee lowered a little bit, then our city council discussion lowered it a little bit, right? Like, we've already lowered that residential water rate a couple of times throughout this process to get it down to that 3.5. So we're very, very aware of that and how it feels to your wallet as well.
Thank you. I'll just, my comments are, about 7 years ago, Mr. Reddy and I, we chose not to increase water utility rates in the city of Mesa. We chose to vote against that. Consequently, the next year, we had a 7.5% increase in our water rates just because of everything combined. And we found that that was not the right thing to do. So incremental increases are something that we do consider. We're very transparent. I would say to Rick and Scott, if you want to learn more, please meet with us. We're one of the few cities that you can go one-on-one with us and find out and get as deep as you want. You get neck deep in water, okay? So water is one of our most expensive components. Or wastewater, yeah, okay. I don't want to go in that place. But what we're doing today, we have a 95-year lease with the Gila River Indian Community for their priority water, and that's because we're going to take additional cuts in 26. I sit on different water boards. I know exactly what's going on, and we know the Colorado River is not producing any more water. In fact, the outcome is not desirable. And Arizona has low priority water compared to other lower basin states. So with that said, costs us more money. We want to serve you wisely, and we do have a geographical area where from everything east of, say, Val Vista and the Roosevelt Conservation District Canal, everything east of there and to the south is a whole different water game. And we have some of the best minds in engineering around to make that happen. Regarding the 30% transfer, those monies are going to our public safety. So we've carved that out because several years ago, Mr. Reddy and I, we heard our residents and Mary Giles, and we all worked together to help, because you could just use this money willy-nilly, as people thought, on our transfer. But we took 30% of that to reinvest in our public safety, police and fire. That's what 30% of that money does. And the other part of it is, I think we're reinvesting in our infrastructure. Every time we pay our bills, our pipes, our employees, our equipment, top notch, so we can respond appropriately to any emergency or need in our city. I respect that. And so, you know, we have a fiduciary responsibility as a council to make sure we keep our rates low. We want to be competitive. We know how hard it is out there. We know families are struggling. We struggle too. And we have the debt service, we have everything involved. But we want, as you look at the homeowner comparison, I think is essential. So I would ask anybody listening, meet with your council member. We'll grab in a staff member. We'll show you all the numbers. So I appreciate that. Just as a reminder, September 22nd is today. November 17th is introduction of utility rate ordinances. We don't vote on this until December 1st. City council action on utility rates with the effective date January 1st. So as been said, we set the rates up high. We can always strive to come down lower, you know, 0.25%, whatever it might be. We strive for that. Now, the next topic agenda item may not be a real popular item, but we're going to get through this one here, and we're going to talk about capacity fees for everybody. So I know there's some waiting for that. So council, if there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion for the notice of intent for items 10A and B. Thank you, Ms. Spilsbury. Thank you, Mr. Reddy. Please cast your vote. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Again, item 11A and B is a notice of intent and setting December 1st as the date for a public hearing. We'll have a presentation and discussion on proposed water and wastewater capacity fees. Mr. Hassert, are you gonna come up? And then also the adoption of the notice of intent to establish water and wastewater capacity fees. I do have some blue cards, so once we're done with the presentation, we'll have the blue cards and then council discussion. Breakfast?
You're not wrong.
Dinner. Thank you, Andrew.
Mayor, council members, Christopher Hassard, Water Resources Director, City of Mesa. So this is the presentation that we looked at, both in audit and finance, and more or less the same presentation at a council study session. I won't go through every slide. I really just want to pick out the key slides. So what is it? The capacity fee, it's been mentioned earlier tonight. It's really new development paying for the expansion of infrastructure we need in our water and wastewater systems. The capacity fee is modeled off the revised statute 9-51101. So that statute gives cities authority, water providers authority to impose fees for water and wastewater. The capacity fee itself, the methodology we use is actually from the American Water Works Association, Manual M1. It's a very thick manual. It gets into rates and fees in the water industry and wastewater industries. So nationwide, this methodology is used as a capacity fee, again, for new development to pay for itself. I'll go back a couple slides. So this is not for all customers. It's for new development as a set a new meter for new growth. That growth puts demand on the system, water and wastewater. As it stands today, if we just used our existing customer base, water and wastewater, we would not have to expand any plants. We would not have to build new interceptor sewers. We would not have to build any booster stations. The existing customer base is covered with the existing infrastructure. But as it stands, through our master planning process, which we started in 2022, there's about $400 million identified in new projects that are strictly to add capacity to the system, both water and wastewater. One of those, about half of that $400 million, is the expansion of the Signal Butte water treatment plant that is under construction today. If we weren't entertaining any more growth in Mesa, we would not be expanding this plant. So this plan is really to accommodate growth. And I could go down a long list of projects, building new wells in Southeast Mesa, large interceptor sewers to extend into areas that have yet to be developed. All that infrastructure is necessary to support new development. So this fee would be imposed on any new development or any upsizing. So there could be redevelopment where you have a parcel that maybe today has a 1-inch meter, but there's going to be a newer use to that property, more dense perhaps. That could require the use of a 2-inch meter. So that upsize would then pay an impact fee. What I want to do is, first of all, I'll show you the map. So this is right out of the master plan, the integrated master plan that we just finished earlier this year. All of those colored areas represent, well, first of all, the different colors represent different land uses in the city of Mesa. And any area that shows up in color is either a vacant or underdeveloped parcel. As it stands, we're about 90% built out, actually about 85% built out. But 90% of the remaining development is commercial, and only about 10% of those vacant parcels that you see left to develop are residential. So by and large, What's ahead of us on this map is commercial development with only about a tenth of that being residential. I think the slide that really, we won't go through the math because we did that before, but we start with the $400 million and then we look at all the vacant parcels. We look at the capacity that we need to build with that $400 million, and then we break that down and distill it into the least common denominator, which is a 3/4 inch meter. That's the smallest meter we have in our inventory. We start the fee there, and then as you go in bigger meter sizes, there's an exponential amount of more water that's put through, say, a 4-inch meter versus a 3/4 inch meter. So we go to that least common denominator, which is the 3/4 inch meter, and you can see the water and the wastewater capacity fee is about $9,500. And then as you go larger in size with meters, it's strictly just based on the flow rate that you can get through those bigger meters. A 10-inch meter, you can count on one hand, maybe there's only one or two in the entire city. You're talking about really large facilities like a data center that would be a 10-inch, even an 8-inch, even down to a 6-inch. That's a pretty big meter. That's a lot of water use. So you can see that's commensurate with the dollar amount. A lot of water use is going to translate into a higher capacity fee. This really tells the story in terms of where Mesa sits right now in the environment. If you look at a lot of our neighbors, existing Mesa, we're that bottom line right now. There's no mechanism in place right now where new development pays for expanded infrastructure for new development. There's nothing in place. Other cities either have a capacity fee or an impact fee. Mesa used to have an impact fee. Our wastewater impact fee not daylighted, but it sunsetted. That was the word I was looking for. Thank you. Yeah, it sunsetted the wastewater in 2023, and then just late last year, the water impact fee sunsetted. So as we started our master planning process in 2022, and we worked through that, and we looked at that map that we showed you, we knew that we had a lot of big cost ahead of us to expand the system to pave the way for that new growth. So with that pointed us in the direction of a capacity fee. We first brought this to your attention a year ago in this very process. It was one of the slides we had just to foreshadow the work we were doing and that we would be coming back to you. And then again in the budget process back in April when I presented, that was one of our slides at the very end that we covered that aside from the budget process, which is very important, the O&M budget, this capacity fee was also something we took very seriously and we were working on and that we wanted to bring to you when the time came, which is now during the rates process. And that's all I have to really present. I would take any questions.
Council, any questions right now? If not, we'll move over to the blue cards. Thank you, Chris. I think for clarity, if we could talk about this, but if we adopt the capacity fee, then for the residential residents, then the fee would be lower percent-wise. And I think that there might be some that think, well, it's going to increase my residential water bill, wastewater, but that's not the case. Is that how council feels? Okay. Okay, so with that, I'm just saying these names wish not to speak on or opposed to it. Jeff Klusman and Elaine Klusman are opposed to this item. With that, we'll move over to the speaker cards. Mr. Ashley, James Ashley has been here patiently all this evening. You could have had dinner somewhere and then showed up, but thank you for your diligence.
That's all right. Very happy to be here. And thank you very much, Mayor Freeman, members of the council. I am James Ashley. I appreciate this opportunity. With the Home Builders Association of Central Arizona, we represent the single-family residential construction industry and all the associated trades. Our member companies employ tens of thousands of workers throughout the region and invest hundreds of millions of dollars annually here in Mesa through new home construction. I do appreciate this opportunity, and we are here this evening to convey opposition to adopting these fees for water and wastewater under ARS 9511.01, or in the case of this evening, the Notice of Intent. The city can and should adopt the fees under ARS 9463.05, which is the Development Impact Fee Statute. This is about the process. Mesa is good about outreach. I'm actually working with the city of Mesa on an unrelated issue as a result of outreach, and we're having great conversations and we're making good progress. So we were disappointed that we only found out about this proposal by seeing it on your September 11th study session agenda. There was no outreach to home builders, which is contrary to outreach in other jurisdictions. I initiated a meeting with staff here, which was held, and there's now also a planned and scheduled stakeholder meeting to discuss our concerns. We'll work through that process with staff and hope to achieve a positive resolution or end up back here to voice our opposition and our continued concerns. We haven't had an opportunity to fully review how the fees were calculated, so we may have some additional commentary on that aspect as well. But I want to make clear as I wrap up, our opposition, it's not rooted in the need to provide water and wastewater capacity to our builders to accommodate growth. We understand the growth pressures on a city. We understand the growth pressures for water and wastewater on Mesa. It's the process. It's the process that removes the certainty of the timelines and the other protections and provisions that builders experience in other municipalities throughout the valley, and then previously in Mesa as well, as you heard, and that certainty that exists in the Development Impact Fee Statute. And with that, I'd like to thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Next, we'll hear from David L. Smith. If you're still here, along with on deck is Scott Webster. Mr. Smith.
Hi, my name is David L. Smith, and in full disclosure, I'm a resident of Dreamland Villa for the almost 9 years here in November. However, I do pay a city water bill every month, so I would like to speak to this issue.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, city council members, and city staff. I speak tonight to support the proposed wastewater capacity fee because those who benefit from new infrastructure should pay for it. Currently, Mesa residents and water ratepayers subsidize new development by covering the costs of water and wastewater infrastructure. This is no longer necessary or fair. City staff estimates the supplying Mesa's remaining available space at a cost of about $400 million, as we just heard, an excessive burden for residents and ratepayers. While the capacity fee for a typical single-family home is significant, it aligns with state law and fees paid in other valley cities and towns. Without this fee, ratepayers would face higher utility bills over time to cover these costs, plus interest, which is unfair. Please approve the notice of intent to establish these capacity fees and ultimately to adopt the fees. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. With that, I just want to circle back to Mr. Ashley. Mr. Ashley, you know you're working with staff, so again, Mesa stands ready to help work through this process. Is there one more? Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, Mr. Webster. Yeah, Scott, thank you. Ms. You get
In the
kind of
interest of
excited.
time, I will just second a lot of what was just said. The end of my remarks basically say this. I've lived in several other cities where this issue comes up, and it's always a philosophical one. And I appreciate the fact that you're addressing this. You call it unpopular, but I really think it's necessary. I certainly support it. I hope that everything's being looked at, water, power, roads, all of that with regard to new development. One of the things that happened where we lived in California is that most of the housing going in tended to be high-end, and so it was much more expensive. And I guess you'd say the individuals who were going into that housing were capable of absorbing some of that. Provisions weren't made for these capacity allowances, for this capacity fee, and what happened was that people, especially elder people living in older, smaller homes, wound up absorbing a significant amount of that infrastructure hit. Because it was not placed on these new developments. And so I'll just second what was said and leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think for clarity, Mr. Butler, Mr. Smith, this only pertains to water and wastewater because that's what we're limited to with this capacity fee.
Mayor and council, that's correct. Under the state statute, the capacity fee can only be for water and wastewater.
If we could do more, we would, Mr. Webster, but we're constrained by those guardrails. Anything else, Mr. Butler?
Mayor, council, I just, in response to Mr. Ashley's comments, and we've always, to his point, had a good relationship with our friends, stakeholders groups in the private sector, and we're committed to working with them. I do think it's a bit unfair, and I've seen it from, multiple stakeholders of applying the statutory framework of impact fees and then using that as as some kind of testament that we're not following an open process when we are following state statute and we are adhering to what's laid out in statute as far as adoption of a capacity fee, a fee that's been upheld all the way up to the Arizona Supreme Court. And so this is certainly something we want to work with our stakeholders with, but going back to your point, staff feels strongly that growth needs to pay for growth. And every day that we don't have this, current ratepayers are subsidizing the new growth that's happening in this city. And I just don't think that's acceptable. And we feel, strongly that we'll work with industry. We want to find a reasonable solution on this. And so that's why we're glad through this process tonight. Again, you're starting this discussion. We have 60 days, as was alluded to. We do have stakeholder meetings set up, and we're the mayor participated in a discussion today with an interested party, and so we're going to continue to have these discussions between now and December, and hopefully can find a good place where we can all feel good about the end product.
Very good, thank you. Vice Mayor, anybody down here?
Thank you. I just hope those meetings are productive in that we shouldn't do this at all, because ultimately, who should pay for growth? And we see it in these rates. If we don't adopt this for residential consumers, it's 0.5% more on their utility bill every month just to offset the cost of growth. And for commercial users, it's 1%. And you can go up and down on the wastewater too. So growth really should pay for growth. How we implement this, I think there's some discussions that could be made to help there. But as we heard from staff, the old system has died. So we have to adopt a new system to make sure that growth pays for itself. And I will take exception too, because I do remember having this conversation last year about starting the process for putting this together. So if folks weren't paying attention, granted we didn't have any public meetings, but now you have 60 days to have those one-on-one meetings. I'm really glad to hear you're doing that, but we have to protect our ratepayers. And so I'm looking forward to having these discussions in the future. Thank you.
Ms. Goforth.
Yes, I would just say, again, this notice of intent starts the process to receive feedback and the conversations. That's what this does. So now is the time to have those. We haven't skipped them. We've just begun them. Tonight begins those. And frankly, as Vice Mayor said, we did mention it. It has been mentioned at the previous discussion so anyway, this isn't the first time that it's been brought up, but definitely reiterate, growth should pay for growth. You heard Chris Hassard say the existing infrastructure that we have with the existing ratepayer base, we wouldn't have to change a thing. We wouldn't have to change a thing. It covers maintaining the infrastructure and the capacity that we have. So when we increase the capacity, those that are increasing and adding stress to the system should have to pay for that. That is something I feel strongly about, and I cannot look at my constituents and continue and say to them, we should all cover this new stress on the system and this increased capacity. So I think we'll have some good discussions from here that, you know, we may learn a thing or two from the feedback and tweak it a little bit, but the general concept I think is a good one.
Thank you, Mr. Adams.
I'll just say at this time that I think this is a very interesting and appropriate discussion to have. I look forward to feedback from staff as these conversations with stakeholders go on, but at this time, it seems to me like anything that we can look at that reduces the burden on the residential ratepayer, and this seems to fit that bill, is something that I think is well worth pursuing. As was mentioned, we have 60 days in front of us for a robust discussion about this, which I look forward to. But again, if this is one vehicle we can use to reduce the amount that we ask residential ratepayers to pay, then I think that's a very positive thing. I look forward to those discussions.
Thank you. And I just want to bring up the fact there's a difference between capacity fees and impact fees. So we may be shooting something over the bow, Mr. Ashley, that we might look at impact fees in the future. So with that said, we'll move forward. So I will entertain a motion for 11B. Thank you, Vice Mayor. Second by Ms. Goforth. All in favor say, cast your vote. Sorry. It's unanimous. Thank you. With that, we kind of jumped around a little bit. Ms. Mosley, was there anything that I missed so far?
No, Mayor, you did wonderful.
Oh, wow. Okay. Mr. Smith, are we good to go? Okay. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay. All in favor say aye. Okay, we're adjourned.